What is up, Imp Knight's video? I want to have a discussion with you guys about Black Lightning Season 1, Episode 8 review. Yeah. But before I begin this video, I want you guys to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and post a comment below. Let me know what you think about my review of Black Lightning Season 1, Episode 8. Alright, so I want to really get into the meats and bones of this episode. And is that when we first are introduced, we see Anissa and Jefferson is training. Now, to give you guys a brief recap on why they're training, is that Jefferson beat up his daughter, gave her a concussion and everything, and then originally was trying not to get her to be Thunder, but then Lynn convinced him that it would be better to train her than to just let her go out there on her own and potentially get herself killed. So now we're here where they're training, and during the training he has holograms and of citizens, threats and citizens. And during that training session, he is teaching Anissa about being a hero, about just because you don't like somebody's viewpoint, you want to minimize the damage and save as many lives as possible, regardless of their background or their viewpoints. Because there was a guy when they were training, and he had like a symbol, and it was a racist symbol, and because she didn't like the fact that he had that symbol and that, you know, he was pretty much a racist, she used her power and pretty much it broke his ankle, gave him a concussion. And that's what Jefferson was just trying to teach her. Like, just because he was racist, he was not a threat, and you was just reacting, and that you can't be reaction. And the funny part about that training, that I think was the best part of the training, is is that when he was talking to her, seeing how long she could hold her breath, he was slowly walking and creeping up on her, and she was getting comfortable with their conversation, that she kind of dropped her guard, and he sucker punched her. He didn't sucker punch her hard, but he just hit her in her shoulder, and she was like, "Hey, why you do that?" And he made a valid point. You can never be startled, because the wrong move equals death. And that's what throughout most of the episode he was teaching her about making moves and choices, about knowing your limits and your powers. What can you do, what you can't do. That was one of the major things about the episode. We also see that Gambi seems to work for the ASA, because he was talking to Martin Proctor, who puts a price on Black Lightning's head, and pretty much was just, he was tired. He's tired of Freeland. He's tired of the neighborhood. He's tired of Garfield. Like, at this point, he wants to get rid of him. And Gambi lied to him and said that he'll figure out who Black Lightning was. But obviously Gambi was stalling to buy more time, because we all know he knows who Black Lightning, Thunder is. We know this. And he's been lying to the ASA to protect Jefferson and now Anissa. and now, Martin wants to kill them, and felt like Lady Eve, her death won't be in vain, even though he seemed like a dude that just didn't like, the black community at all, and that he was experimenting on them. And that's the thing. They do that in real life. So some of the things that they're doing in the TV show are based off of real life. So I just want people to understand that, and don't get offended by some of the tones and the talk and all that they talk about. Another thing is that after their training, Jefferson and Lynn hold a conversation about Anissa. And, they just talk about how Jefferson feels like he's getting through to Anissa as far as understanding awareness, because she knows that if she doesn't, then he won't let her go out on the field. And Lynn is not very comfortable with the fact that Anissa, like her ex was doing, is out there risking her life, but she understands that Anissa is going to do what Anissa's going to do, and she feels much better that Jefferson is teaching and training her, which, like I said, that's a cool theme to give her something to do, because for the most part, Lynn has been somewhat of a dislikable character so far, and hopefully they can redeem the character, because as a fan, we don't like stuff like that, like a parent that we feel is holding a character back from their true potential. So I want to try to keep that in mind. So another thing is that with Jennifer, Lynn and Jennifer's in the lab, and when they're in the lab, she's pretty much asking Jennifer to help her clean up after the break-in. And during that time, Lynn notices that what's his name? Alvin Pierce documents went missing. The newspaper, everything he wrote about green light and all that went missing, and she couldn't figure out what happened to it. And so she ends up letting Jennifer leave because she was too focused on figure out what happened, because those were important papers and documents. And, obviously Jennifer, being a 16-year-old girl, was excited because she wants to do what normal teenage kids do. Okay. So then we get to the fact that Anissa and Jefferson goes to the morgue. And during the time they go to the morgue, excuse me, that's when we learn that Lady Eve was killed by lick and burn, which is that it was by a highly specialized gun that was used with nuclear weapons, and it releases some radiation. And during this time, Jefferson was lecturing Anissa about how when you look at a dead person, do you feel anything for them? Because this person could have a family. She could have been about to cook dinner for her kids, cook dinner for her family. Maybe she was just grocery shopper one day, but for whatever the reason, she is now dead, laying in that morgue. So that was a cool concept about what was going on with Anissa. I mean, not Anissa, but the morgue situation, as they all analyze what was going on. Jefferson ends up talking to Gamby about how if he could find the radiation. And then we move to the school where Jennifer and her friend are putting flyers up and doing stuff for the flyers. And she asks her friend to get down, because if she doesn't get down, she could hurt herself. But her friend was being stubborn. It's like, yeah, I'm just going to climb up this unsafe ladder, by the way. The ladder was clearly shaking and it looked incredibly unsafe. And still, she didn't listen, and she almost fell. And during the time she almost fell, almost broke her neck, Jennifer's powers manifest itself. Yeah, so as soon as she was getting ready to run to go save her friend, her adrenaline rush, and then all of a sudden her electrical powers pop up, and it was like, whoa. And she was highly confused about her abilities, and not only that, she ends up going to test out and see what happens. So she concentrated and ended up blowing out her cell phone, which freaked her out even more after the school situation, because she was already freaked out about it. Now she went to go practice it and was freaked out about it, because she was like, okay, what's going on? Because of the simple fact is, she wasn't expecting to not have powers. She wasn't expecting. She thought she was a normal girl, but she clearly isn't. And then we go through the fact that Lynn, after Jefferson suggested to Lynn to go talk to Gambi, we end up finding out Gambi's been in Freeland for over 30 years. Now, how crazy is that? He came to Freeland around the time the green light and the vaccination came in. Now, that's crazy. That's a crazy situation right there. And she pieced it together, and when she kept asking more and more questions, and he was just like, I really don't want to talk about this. And she was just like, you were the one that came. And so he was like, I gotta have a talk with Jefferson. Lala was in the episode. He wasn't doing much but talking to himself, creeping out some of his friends. I mean, I shouldn't say his friends, but some of his old crew members. He was kind of creeping them out because he was talking to it seemed like he was talking to himself, but he really was just talking to his tattoos, who manifested itself. But to them, they was like, yo, Lala, who you talking to, bro? He was like, well, just keep going, dog. Which was, that was funny. Then he was kissing air because he was kissing LaWanda, which I found quite funny. At the end of the day, I found that quite funny per se, but like I said, he wasn't really doing too much in this episode. And then we get to the meat and potatoes of the episode. And that is the talk that Gambi and Jefferson had. And this talk is pretty much Peter tells Gambi. Wow, said that backwards. Peter tells Jefferson his full backstory. And obviously, Jefferson wasn't happy. And he asked him, did you make me Black Lightning? He said no. He's like, yeah, when he found out that they were harming kids, he quit and leaked it to his father, and which ended up getting his father murdered, which pisses Jefferson off more. And he almost Black Lightning Gambi. His eyes turn blue electrical, and he just doesn't stay away from him and his family because, Gambi seemed to have secrets on secrets. Like he always have a contingency plan after a contingency plan. So seeing Jefferson getting ready to put them electrical hands on Gambi, I don't know, dog. It was surprising. But I'm going to end this video here. I do hope you enjoyed my review. I'll give it a 4 out of 5 do-rags. The plot is starting to thicken more. I'll have more of these episodes up for y'all. But in the meantime, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and peace out.